Brother, I wanted to start from a little quote that he put on IG. I think it was yesterday, or at least I saw it yesterday.
Mhm.
Time difference wise might be a little different, but we're going to go for it anyway. It goes
Yeah.
by, if your dreams do not scare you, they're not big enough.
hmm Yeah, that was yesterday.
Yesterday. Why?
I don't know. I think it's just kind of the pursuit of always trying to do something just a little bit better.
Mm,
And I think if it doesn't really kind of scare you a little bit, or if it doesn't at least make you think twice. That it's probably nothing that's really worth going after that much, which is fine for some people. Some people are totally fine kind of taking that, like, I don't want to say easy, but I'll say comfortable
yeah.
route. And that's totally fine. But I think in there are certain industries, I guess in every industry, but there's certain people in certain industries that, kind of want to see where they can take things. And, if you're going to kind of really like shoot way up, it's gonna be a little scary. I think there's unless you're just like immune to something like that. But I think no matter who you are, it's going to be at least a little scary, a little nerve-wracking, uncharted territories in a sense. So if
Mm.
that's kind of what you're shooting for, I think which I think is great. And again, it's not for everybody, but if that's what you're shooting for, or if you're looking to be great in anything, it's going to be a little nerve-wracking, a little scary.
100%, mate. I'm definitely one that shoots way too high and then ends up somewhere along that ladder and be like, oh, well, I missed, first of all. But second of
hmm
all, I'm way further than I was. So I was like, cool, let's just kind of like ping the slingshot a little bit further and see how far we can jump again. I think my follow-up question would be like, what makes that tick inside you? What makes you want to do something like that rather than the opposite, right? Of that complacency or, hey, why don't we just set goals that we know we're going to hit? We can kind of cruise
Um,
towards.
I think it's kind of what we were just saying right before we started is like just being, I think part of it is being from New York. It's just like ingrained in me. It's just to try and kind of like, it's everything here is so intense. So I think it's just
Mm,
kind of ingrained with me to like kind of, all right, what's next? What's next? What's next? Which has its downfalls, but I think it's just kind of like a personality trait it's been in me my entire life. My dad has owned his own business forever. Both of my sisters are kind of in the entrepreneurial type of realm. So I think it's like, I don't know if it's a gene or just something that my dad has kind of embedded in us, but or if New York has or some sort of combo of everything. But it's just, I'm always just kind of like intrigued in what I can do next and if I could take whatever it is to the next level, at least what I'm interested in.
mm.
So yeah, I think it's just in me. It's nothing like it's something that I feel control over. I'm just like, all right, cool, I did this. Like, can we do a little bit more? And then I do that. I'm like, all right, what if we tried to do a little bit more? And I just keep going with that.
So you find some sort of no, right? And then a barrier, and then you just kind of swerve off and go to the next thing, right? I say all the time, like I'm trying to find my no. I'm trying to find something that says, no, Alex, that's not possible. Like you're
Yeah.
actually, you don't have the resources or physically you're not capable or whatever. Right now, it's not possible. Right now, this second, I'm like, sweet, I can divert off and I can go do other things or I can work towards it in a different manner. But I think definitely there's some sort of trait, whether it's from cities, whether it's from seeing parents, whether there's an innateness in certain human beings, where it's like, I can't let go of this ball until I've like exhausted all avenues. Right. And I've kind of found that no, found the end of the cave. And I'm like, sweet, I can come out of that cave and go hunting in a different one.
Yeah.
It's
And
crazy, right?
yeah, and I think it's also big I think it comes from a lot of fitness industry type of stuff too. Um, at least maybe that's just where mine came from. But in the fitness industry, there's always like, you could get a little bit stronger.
Mm,
You can work on this muscle and make it look a little bit better. You can clean up your diet a little bit more, do a little more cardio, right? Like you can always kind of zigzag and do a little bit more in one area. And you
mm,
can't do everything in every aspect, but that's what kind of keeps you, like you were saying, is like, okay, maybe if I can't go this route, I'm going to make this up. Maybe if I can't get any stronger, but I can get a little bit more mobile. So let me try and do that. And now I can't get any more mobile, but now I can get bigger muscles, whatever it is. So I think it's something that comes out in people who are really interested and like dive really deep into the fitness industry, whether they work in it or they're just somebody who likes to do fitness. It's something that comes out in them because the fitness industry as a whole seems like a never ending pursuit of like, how much can I fill up this cup?
100%. And you can't fill it up all the way. There's always going to be something that you shit at. which is, you know,
Mhm.
demotivating for some folk. But I think for some people like ourselves, like it's super motivating. We're like, great, we've kind of pursued this thing, not saying that we're the best in the fucking world or like, you know, world champions or anything like that. But it's just like, all right, cool. I have nailed some goals for myself in this domain. Now I need to go a little bit right field or left field and go a little bit different, whether I go mobility training, whether I start smashing into yoga. And I think it kind of opens the doors for a bit of a, you know, obsessive personality and addictive personality traits. And I think it can be healthy, but you've just got to you've got to keep yourself in the straight and narrow, man.
Yeah, it's definitely something that people will use and maybe go a little overboard on.
Mm.
Which like you said, it can be healthy. They kind of take like one addiction and then bring it into fitness, and then they get addicted to that and can kind of go a little too far with it sometimes. But it's just all about kind of balancing that a little
Balance.
bit, I guess you could say. Yeah.
100%, man. So what got you into the unconventional training?
So, God, if I bring it back, I mean, if I really, really bring it back, I was probably about 15 when I started working out, and kettlebells just kind of intrigued me for whatever reason. So I started messing around with them and had absolutely no idea what I was doing. Um, and then kind of went back and forth. I've always been interested in fitness in general. Got into CrossFit, got into Olympic weightlifting, dabble with some stuff, and then like I've always just been interested in different modalities.
Mm,
I came across on it
mm,
probably got 5 or 6 years ago at this point. I was like, oh, these maces and clubs look kind of cool. I bought a couple of those, like kind of messed around with them. Again, had no idea what I was doing. Then they collected dust for about 4 years. And then just over 2 years ago, I got into jujitsu and I was doing like a big bodybuilding type of split when I got into jujitsu, and I was just super deconditioned and tight and bad. So I was like, okay, I got to switch this up a little bit to complement my jujitsu. Started swinging the clubs and maces a little bit more, getting kettlebells again, and just started to feel pretty good. Just one in general, and two going into my jujitsu, I was feeling looser, feeling a little bit more conditioned, and I was just having fun with it. That's my biggest thing with training. So I was like, cool, I'll just buy more maces, buy more clubs. Got some heavier kettlebells. Just kind of started making those the majority of my training, and just kind of kept going from there. Bought some Bulgarian bags, sandbags, like all that stuff. It just kind of started primarily through jujitsu and just wanted to feel a little better going into that. And then it just kind of turned into, I like this way more. It's way more entertaining for me.
it's definitely fun, right? And I think it's a little
Yeah.
bit more mentally stimulating, you know, because
Yes.
it's an exploration. It's like an adventure. You know, it's like, oh, what range of motion can I strengthen today? Or like, how am I going to feel in this plane with this implement? Or how can I move it with one arm rather than two? And just this random
Hmm.
stuff, right? And I love the whole basic philosophy of like you, no shoes, no socks. You know, you can literally do it fucking swinging dick if you want to. I wouldn't recommend it because you're probably going to get things trapped, right? But it's literally just you, a sandbag, a kettlebell, or a mace, right? And you're just
Hmm.
like trying to figure out this thing. And I think it's this exploration of one's body and mind, you know, this combination, kind of like synergistic approach, creating like a rope, you know, and it's like, well, all we're doing is using these implements to be able to elicit that, you know, and then we're just figuring it out slowly, fast, heavy, you know, light. It doesn't matter. It's all going to be these different stimuli that we have to then adapt and evolve to, right?
Hmm. I think exploration is a really good word to use because that's what a lot of times I'm a little bit more structured now, but for a while I was just kind of like I would just go in my garage or grab a mason and and be like, all right, I'm just gonna figure it out on the fly. What do I feel like doing? I don't care. I'm not like necessarily counting that many reps. I'm not doing something for a certain amount of time sets. I would just kind of play around. And I'm a firm believer that if you just like, if you make that playing around really hard, it's going to work and it's going to be a great workout. You're going to get a good results from it. But yeah, the exploration of it is fun and it's interesting and it's different, and that's what I hear from a lot of people, and I'm sure you're in a similar boat. I've been around fitness my entire life, 24/7 since I was like 14. It's like I can only lay down on a bench and do 4 sets of bench press so many times where it just gets a little old. And especially just training people all day long, I'm always around fitness. So like when it's time for me to do my fitness, it has to be something that's engaging, something that I can maybe explore a little bit with, or something that's just going to keep me going. Like that's number one, is I need to make sure whatever I'm doing is going to keep me working out. And that's what exploring with a mace does, or swinging a kettlebell does, or, carrying a sandbag for 10 minutes, right? Like whatever it might be. Those are the things that do it for me. And I think it's the exploration factor that you were just saying. It's different.
For sure, man. It's a form of physical creativity, right? Like
Hmm.
I really believe that as humans, we need some sort of physical outlet and we need some sort of creative outlet. And I think the creative ones, especially for blokes, is not really emphasized growing up, right? It's like, well,
Hmm.
your creative outlet is go play sport. And you're
Right.
like, well, kind of, but you're not also teaching them how to use that in a mental manner, right? And now we're
Mm.
alone in a room with a sandbag or a kettlebell. You're forced to think about different ways, and it's then bridging that gap. And you're like, okay, cool. Now you can move around, but now you have to be creative mentally, and it stimulates that process. And you're like, oh, this is a little bit tight in this range of motion, or my back might be a little bit tight today, and my hips might be real open. You're like, shit, okay, let's kind of figure this one out. And it's this yeah, it's interaction with the world, right? And we
Hmm.
learn a little bit more about ourselves rather than just lying on a bench, which, don't get me wrong, fantastic. I love it. I love
Hmm.
all types of
For sure.
fitness. Machine stuff, great. I'm in. You want to do
Hmm.
weightlifting? I'm in. Powerlifting, sound. Strongman, no problem. Netball, I don't fucking
Hmm.
care. I'm in. But it's like, I think that's the point. Like, bring as much as we can, throw it all on the plate, and be like, cool, pick and choose today. Play
Yeah.
is a really underutilized aspect of fitness, of health, right? I was like, well, if you're really good on a leg press, really good on a leg extension, you're going to be really good with those two pieces of apparatus. If you're really good with all these different things, you're probably going to be really good at life.
Hmm. Exactly. And that's most people's goal,
Yeah.
realistically.
Yeah.
With all the people that I train, 98% of them are like, yeah, I just want to feel a little better. Like almost, and maybe it's just the people that have nobody's coming at least to a trainer and being like, I need to squat 500 pounds. Like, those are just the people that take over social media, which is fine.
Yeah.
But like 90 to 95% of the world is like, I just want to be a little stronger and feel a little better and feel better about myself. That's it. And that's what doing a whole bunch of different things can do for you. And that's what keeps people engaged.
For sure, man. And the athletes that want to squat 500, right, or more, they want to pursue whatever. Most of the time, they don't need one-on-one. They just need a little bit of guidance of
Hmm.
programming and a little bit of like maybe Zoom calls every week, every month, or whatever, right? Just a touch base. How you doing? Yeah, I'm okay. Sound. Keep going.
Hmm.
The ones that are coming into the gym day in and day out need physical eyes on all the time. They don't want those goals, dude. They just want to move
No.
around. It's funny. Like every time I coach a CrossFit class and I turn around and be fucking militant and be like, right, it's weight off the bar today. Okay, everything is skill, everything is play, and going through that way, right? At the
Hmm.
end, fucking 98% of the people in the class come to me, dude, that was a really good class. Thank you so much. And I'm like,
Hmm.
you're thinking in the back of your head, oh, they're going to be, they're not going to like this because I'm taking weight off the bar. I'm basically slapping their ego in the face. I'm taking the reins off them and be like, yo, we need to slow this down. We need to speed this up. We need to change things around, And they're like, no, no, that's what they want. They want to be coached. They want to be guided
Hmm.
towards where they want to be. A lot of the time they know this shiny object in the future, right? That they want, whether it's a body, whether it's a movement, whether it's a weight on a bar. And it's your job to be able to lead them there and yeah, create the rapport and the trust to be able to do that. But then fucking lead them there.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And that was something that actually kind of like what you were saying is there's some days where you kind of pull it back and it's a skill or it's light or whatever it is. That was something starting jujitsu really taught me, is because it was for the first time in a while, I was like, okay, like I'm learning something new. And there were days where, we wouldn't spar. We would just learn a technique the whole time. And I leave class, I'm like, you know what? That was actually great. Like I practiced the same thing for 45 minutes and now I can't forget it.
Mm.
And that kind of was nice for me to take into some of my coaching and training, because it's sometimes, like you said, I'm going to make this up, right? Do I want to spend 15 minutes teaching these people how to kettlebell snatch, or do I just want to, like, get them a workout in for the day? And it's like, sometimes if you just spend that 15 minutes on actually teaching them how to do a snatch, they're never going to forget it. And now they can do them every single time they pop up and not have to worry about bashing the wrist or using a dumbbell instead or whatever it might be. And that sometimes that pullback, like we said, quote unquote, regular people, most
Mhm.
people actually are totally fine with that. If it's, they just have one day that's a little bit less intense and they're like, oh, I actually like learned how to do something today. And it makes them feel good too.
For sure, man. It's just more tools in that toolbox.
Exactly.
They can do more shit. Like I fucking shout at people all the time of like, we learn new skills outside of workouts.
Yeah.
When we bring intensity pieces and that starts going up and we move around and do a bit of conditioning or WODs as it's now widely known as, right? Whatever, your heart rate's going
Yeah.
up, right?
Yeah.
You use the skill that you've already got, but we don't
Hmm.
practice new skills when a heart rate is through our bloody mouth and we don't know where we're at or
Yeah.
what we're doing. I was like, no, that we need to be in a controlled environment or as controlled as we can. Bring it right back down, relax, have some feedback, move, have some more feedback, move a little bit better, and that's when we get some skills. Then that's when we can throw them in workouts. Everyone likes the sexy stuff thrown over the bar or throwing 100 kilos above their head or back squatting 500 or throwing a kettlebell and calling it a snatch, right? But nobody wants to do
Hmm.
the hard yards of the skill and breaking it down and
Yeah.
like, and I guess it's our job to be educators in that sense and be like,
Hmm.
okay, guys, Rome wasn't built in a day, but they were laying bricks every hour.
Yeah.
We're gonna lay some bricks today.
Hmm. It's a good way of
And
putting it. Yeah, for sure.
oh, dude, I've seen so many people that just tell me to go fuck myself, and I'm like, cool, let's try and get through to these folk.
Some people, and that's what's tough with our job sometimes, is balancing, like, okay, we want to teach this person, but we also want to give them what they want.
Mm,
Because you had those, some people, like, I call them like the box checkers, like the people that come in, they just want to come in, sweat, tell their friends they went to the gym, and then be out. And you know what? So be it. Like, do your thing. If that's what you want, like, I'm all for it. And then there are going to be the people who want to be like super, super coached. And it's, balancing that dichotomy of,
yeah.
you know, trying to coach the people um, who want to just come in, sweat, and leave, but giving them enough coaching to where or giving them the coaching that, they need, but not giving them too much. They're like, all right, like, I just want to sweat and leave. So that's sometimes hard too, to kind of balance that. And like, we almost have to like pull the reins back on ourselves from time to time because we want to teach them,
Mm,
but some people just don't care.
mm.
And, it is what it is. It's unfortunate, but that's kind of what we have to accept sometimes, is give everybody what they want out of the gym
For
or out
sure,
of their
and
workout.
100%, right? Because they're the paying customer. The customer's always right. You know,
At the end of the day, yes, sir.
at the end of the day, we're in the wrong, they're in the right. All the
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
If or it slightly didn't hit the mark, it's on us. If communication broke down, it's on us. Even if they were just
Yep.
turn the other way and look in a different direction. Unfortunately, we have to take that one on the chin, right? It's a good job we've not
Of
got glass
course.
jaws.
Exactly.
But like, yeah, I think that's a fascinating dynamic to navigate, giving somebody what they want in the short term by providing them what they need in the long term, and
Tough.
I think that's a fascinating little dynamic. You're like, well, how do I get somebody on this trail to Hansel and Gretel's house, right?
Hmm.
But they want to do what they want to do now. And you're like, well, if I'd always laying the hammer down and be like, no, fuck you, mate. Like, you're going to do this, they're just going to leave. And then we can't help them. Right. So
Yeah.
if our goal is to just help some folk, which most of the time, most of the people in the fitness industry, it is, I was like, okay, cool. Sometimes we got to give them what they want,
Hmm.
while just sprinkling in a little bit what they need.
Yeah. Just a little bit of bribery.
Just
Give them what they want, and like superset that with something that they need. That's like
yeah,
my go-to little, like, you can have your cookie after your broccoli type of thing.
yeah. We are gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie. I will lie to you. That's
Yeah.
probably a sentence I've said too many times. But anyway,
Yeah, I like that one. That's good.
brother, why do you do what you do?
Like training people?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I guess the easy, the real answer is, once I was 16 and realized that being a personal trainer is an actual job, I was like, let's just do that. Um, I don't know. I do. I mean, I just like it. I like to, um, I like do a lot of different things where it's like I've trained kids, I've trained adults, I do classes, I do small group stuff like that. And I like coaching. I
Mm.
like teaching. I think I'm finding that to be, I'm kind of like almost listening to myself. It's a good question that you asked because it's something I'm always kind of like asking myself as well is like, what do you enjoy the most doing? And I notice when I'm in like big groups of people and I'm teaching them a skill and the whole room's just kind of like engaged or whatever it is. 'Cause I used to teach CrossFit as well. I don't anymore, but I used to teach a bunch of it. And I've taught 17-year-old kids how to squat and stuff like that in big groups. I find that like the big groups and coaching and like really taking people through something that they've never done before and breaking it down is probably something I like the most. Because it's just kind of, it's rewarding learning something new just as a person. And it's rewarding being able to, sorry, from Carter out of my
Sorry.
it's rewarding to kind of give that to somebody. And again, I use that jujitsu as an example. Like, I'm a couple years in now, and it's like when you first started, you were like, what the fuck is going on in here? And now I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. And like just that realization is like that feels really nice. It builds confidence in a person, it builds what's it called? It builds trust in themselves in a sense.
Mm.
It builds a new skill, it builds something for them to then to build something for them to build on, whether it's a new movement or more weight or whatever it is. It's just kind of nice to see people do something that they couldn't do at first or something that like they doubted a little bit themselves in and just kind of keep continuing to like break down those barriers in themselves. It's just kind of fun to see for me, I guess.
Yeah,
That was a
dude.
long, it was a long, around the circle, long-winded answer, but it's just kind of like I like seeing people and teaching people that like they can do more than they think.
Yeah, and we just use the medium of fitness, right? You know,
Exactly.
we're in the business of people using the medium of fitness. That's it. We're not in the business of fitness, right? And I think that's such a beautiful point. I think it's also such a beautiful thing to see is this development of competency, and it's also the
Hmm.
mental competency, and it boosts their confidence, and the trust in themselves. To quote yourself, and they walk into the gym with the chest up a little bit more, the chin's a little higher. They're saying hello to
Hmm.
strangers rather than just all rounded forward, and they look like they're kind of dragging nuts on the floor. And then the next thing you know, they come to you and be like, brother, like now I'm pursuing this, now I'm doing that. Now I went for a solo hike at the weekend, and you're like, what? Like
Yep.
you didn't want to do anything when we first met you. It was like, yeah, and you see the happiness and the joy and the smile on their face, right? And you're like, well, all we did was sprinkled in a little bit of movement, a little bit of fitness, and gave them some high fives and be like, I want to see you again tomorrow. And they'd be like, cool.
Hmm.
And they trusted that, and they come back, and the next thing you know, the whole life has got better. We're biased, right? So take this with a pinch of salt and
Right.
maybe with a freaking tablespoon of it. But it's this beautiful foundation of like if we make people be able to move better, then they kind of become a bit better people. And I don't
Hmm.
really know
100%.
why, but they do. There's like this beautiful correlation between movement competency and cognitive competency. And I'm just
Hmm.
like, if we can provide this to fucking everybody, maybe we're going to work on connection rather than conflict, rather than we go for community, rather than just like confusion, and just, oh, we're all wound up, like we were saying at the beginning of these big cities. Like, I don't know whether that's the answer anymore. Like, there's so many fucking people, but
Hmm.
everybody is anxious. Everybody is
Yep.
already pissed off at you and they don't even know your name.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and it's, and I don't know the science behind it, but everybody's in a better mood after they work out. It's worked every single time. I've never went into a workout not feeling good or pissed off and came out more pissed off or anything like that. It works every single time. And like you said, it's I call it like the snowball effect. You start working out a little bit, you start to feel a little better. And then since you're working out, you're like, all right, let me be a little better with my diet. Now your diet's a little better. Now you're losing weight. Now you feel a little better about yourself. You're also kind of taking care of yourself better more. So you're sleeping more. Since you got an extra hour of sleep, you feel a little better, more cognitively aware throughout the workday and whatever it is. And that just continues to snowball. And then all of a sudden you just feel overall better. It's the reason that, people who are completely out of shape, and then once they start that journey, their entire life changes. It's not just because they lost weight, it's because everything, I always say like fitness is a hell of a drug.
Mm.
You can cure most things with a solid fitness routine and a proper diet, whatever that diet is, right? And that's I don't think people notice that enough or realize. I don't think people truly realize how much it can, and that's why everybody's just bashing their heads against each other. But like you said, if you could just sprinkle in a little bit of that movement
Mhm.
and just kind of start that snowball effect for somebody, that's awesome to see.
Yeah, and I think the one of the main reasons why is because it's hard. I think
Yeah.
us humans need to do something that's friggin' difficult. And sometimes you go outside and you dig a hole and you're like, well, it's not going anywhere. I'm digging on frozen ground, and you got to go back in and you got to sleep and then you got to go back out again the next day and you try and thaw it out and then go back in and go back out the next day. And it's like, yeah, I think we need a consistent struggle, right? If we're always given this, hey, take this pill and you're gonna be all right, you know,
Hmm.
fucking, I don't know, take this drug and you're gonna be all right. Like whatever. It's always a shortcut to everything. I can just swipe whichever way, whatever the fucking dating apps days are, right? I can just swipe whatever, and the next thing you know, there's 15 already on the doorstep. You're like, it's easy. All right. Well,
Hmm.
I think that's the issue. I think we always need something that's difficult. Do something that you're shit at. And fitness, well, we're all shit at a lot of things in fitness, right? And it's just like, well, it's difficult, and it's that struggle and you
Yeah.
express yourself and it's creative and it's physical and it's hard, and I think that's the point. I think, life is not complicated. I think it's just hard, but people are not hard, they're just complicated. And we just need to
Yep.
understand ourselves, find that difficult task that, oh, that's going to take a while. That's going to take me just chipping away at this bad boy. It's like, good, man.
Hmm.
Just because, like we said at the beginning before we started recording, it's all about that journey, man. We end up learning about
Hmm.
ourselves and then goes into that snowball effect. And the next thing boom, you're so much happier and healthier, and you're way better to your spouse, you're way better to your mates, you're way better to as a son or as a daughter, right? And you're like, yeah, dude, it's not fucking magic. You just did the hard
No.
yards.
Hmm. And people don't realize it. They don't. They
No.
they seem to not notice it, or realize how much of a difference it can actually make. Just the little, the feeling good from the workout, the telling yourself to go work out and you don't want to, sticking with it, staying for 10 minutes longer. Like those things add up. They do, and they add up, like you said, into your relationship. You have the conversation you didn't want to have because you're used to kind of doing a little something that's harder. Whatever it is, you walk a little bit, you park farther away. Now you walk for 5 minutes or whatever it is. Just those little things tend to add up. Um, one physically, but more importantly mentally. And I just don't think people really realize kind of the Rome analogy used earlier, just brick by brick, and eventually it turns into something pretty special.
100%, man. Brother, I got three questions.
Hit me.
What's the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
Ooh. So I don't know if it was necessarily life advice. I'm like a big quote whore, but I don't really remember any of them because I can't remember anything. But there's a Gary V post who
Mm.
I'm so on, and this was only part of it. It said your personality is your business card, and I kind of pride myself on that with this industry. Especially fitness, there's so many people who are absolutely geniuses and they're like a little too stuck in their ways. And they're an asshole, right? Like
Mm.
straight up, I always say that, if you can't hold a conversation, you're an asshole. Like nobody's going to want to train with you. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how good you are. And then of course there's the other side of it. You can't just be all personality and not know anything. But I do kind of pride myself on being able to kind of like keep my clients, keep people entertained in fitness and kind of like make them enjoy it through my personality. And that's kind of been a really, really big part of my business and what has kind of helped me grow, I think. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, so I don't know if that's necessarily life advice, but it's just something I heard once, and it just kind of, we all love quotes and reposting them and stuff like that. But I heard that one like probably 6 or 7 years ago at this point, maybe a little less, and it just stuck with me because I was like, that's what I try and do, because at
Mm.
the end of the day, I'm not making Olympic level athletes. I need people to just move a little bit, make themselves better, and if I can do that by making them enjoy it, like that's a huge win.
I like that a lot, man. That's one I've not
It's
heard. And I heard a lot
yeah,
of Gary Vee, man.
hmm
Your personality is your
love that
business,
one.
good. I love that,
Yeah,
bro.
it's great.
What's the
And it's
worst piece
true.
of... Yeah, it
Ooh,
is true.
wait, sorry, go ahead. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
Oh,
Sorry.
what's the worst piece of life advice you ever received?
Ooh, what is the worst piece of life advice? I don't really know if anything sticks out. But I do remember I've been seeing a post a lot recently that it did kind of make sense where, so I might be kind of stealing this. But the guy was being asked, he was like, what's the best, he was same questions. He was like, what's the best piece of advice? He was like, dream big or something like that. I can't remember what it was. And then he was like, what's the worst piece of advice? He said, be realistic. And I was like, that's pretty good. I've kind of been having that like thought in my head, like a lot of the like why not me type of stuff. It's easy, you go back and forth a lot. And people are like, all right, like why me? Why is, let's say I'm going to open up across the gym tomorrow. There's 1,000 across the gyms. Why is mine going to do better than all the other ones, right? It's also like, well, why not me? Right. So that's something I've been trying to tell myself a little bit lately as I, dabble with trying to grow my business in whatever way or my career in whatever way it is. I still don't know. But it's easy to kind of look around and be like, oh, there's a lot of people already doing what I'm doing. So it's like, all right, what's going to make me different? And then it's like, be realistic. You're not gonna grow your following. You're not going to be able to, most gyms fail in the first year or something like that. So I think that's something I've been kind of trying to tell myself is not to like that being realistic is bad advice.
Oh, I'm
So
gonna
I'm
sneeze.
kind of hijacking that. Bless you.
Thank
I'm
you.
kind of hijacking that from a post, so it wasn't necessarily told to me, but it is something I've been telling myself a lot recently is to ignore something like be realistic.
For sure, bro. And that's I relate to that real hard. That's my worst piece of life advice.
Perfect.
What's fucking
Great
realistic about
minds.
all this shit, man? Like
Yep.
we're doing what we're doing, we're talking to each other via the internet across time zones and ponds, right? You
Literally across
come
the world. You can't be farther from me.
you flick a switch, you get light. At one point in time, everything was unrealistic. Like
Mhm.
I don't know about yourself, man, but I'm from the shit end of the stick, and if I was realistic, I'd still be there, but I'm not. So
Yep. It's great.
don't fucking be realistic. Carry on.
Exactly. I love it.
Last question, brother. What are the 3 words you would tell your younger self?
Oof. Invest in Apple. No, what are three? I'd say I'd say if I had to come up with something on the spot, keep doing you. I like where I'm
Mm,
at. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. I love being in the fitness industry. I've kind of had this trajectory since I turned like 15 years old, 16 years old. I don't regret anything I've done in terms of any route I took working out. I don't regret anything I've done in my career necessarily. I'm sure things could have turned different ways if I took a left there instead of a right, but I'm actually I'm really happy with where I'm at. So I guess if I had to go back, I would just say keep doing you because you're gonna end up in a good spot. I'm a big corny, everything happens for a reason type of person. I believe that's why I met my wife, that things just kind of line up the way they're
mm,
supposed to. I believe that's where I'm at in my career, and everything's happening right now for a reason. Whether you want to call that religious or some higher power, it's not my thing, but if you want to, go ahead.
mhm.
Um, yeah, so I think I'm pretty content, pretty happy. Maybe not content, that's a bad word, but I'm pretty happy with where I'm at right now and just in kind of every aspect of everything. So I'd say just keep doing you because it's worked so far.
I love that, brother.
Thanks.
Pat, thank you so much, man. This has been an honor and a
Oh,
privilege, mate.
oh, my pleasure, man. This was fun. I really enjoyed talking to you. And like you said, it's just it is funny to think sometimes completely across the world. I think it's like 5 in the morning where you are right now, right?
Yeah, something like that, bro.
When you sent the Zoom invite, I was like, holy shit, that's early. Good for him.
No, I mean, I made my bed of coming all the way over there. this side of the world, right, I got to sleep in it. I'm not going to expect other people to wake up and at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and talk to little old me. So I guess I can get my fucking sorry ass out of bed and get a coffee in me and be like, right, let's start talking shit to people on the other side of the world. So, mate,
I
it's
like it.
an
I think
honor.
it's a pretty good way. It's a pretty good way to start your day. I appreciate you having me, man.
No, thank you, mate. Well, whenever I get over to NYC, we need to start swinging kettlebells, mate.
Oh yeah, you know where to find me. Absolutely.
Mate, we'll do it. Count me in.
Perfect. Appreciate it, man. Thank
Brother,
you.
thank you so much. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, sir. You too. Have a great day.
Thanks, man. Bye, everybody.
Bye.